Okay, folks, more tabletop content for you today. It's the 4th installment of my Marvel United X-Men game unboxing series, and this one is taking a look at the Pledge promo specials. It's a big one, look. Big one, this one. So let's get into it. Okay then, so here it is. Here is the big box of Pledge bonus figures, characters that came in the set. It's a hefty box, it's big, it's thick, it's so big that my overhead view is not really fully capturing the experience. Again, it's got this great artwork by Eduardo Guiton. Again, apologies for the mispronunciation if I'm pronouncing that surname incorrectly. Lots going on, very busy. There's so many bonus characters here that it's just crammed as many as possible into this artwork on the front. But it is, again, very dynamic, full of action, really selling that superhero action kind of story that they're trying to sell with the game. So we've got these on the front. And then if you have a look around the sides, you'll see that we've got, there's Alpha Force there, come as an extra. We've got the Excalibur characters here that have come as an extra. Where to next? Let's go this way next. Oh no, it's Alpha Force again. Oh, and it's Excalibur again, so there we are. And then if I flip over to the back... oh, there we go, it's the... a lot of swiveling and twisting. We've got a shot of all the additional characters, all the little figures that are coming in this box, pointing out that you need one of the core sets, either the Marvel United X-Men core set or the original Marvel United core set, a description of the components, and all the legal stuff, because these are little figures, folks. Don't be cramming them in your mouths. They'll get stuck in your throats and it will be game over. And a relative will be inheriting your Kickstarter set. So there we go. Yeah, all the mutant promos in there. Let's get into having a look at everything that's inside. Okay then, let's get the lid off. And again, I'll be honest, I popped the cellophane and had a little cheeky peek. So it's not a fresh unboxing on the video here. But that's quite a deep box actually, so the lid is a bit of a challenge to get off there. So there's the lid off, and then what you'll see here, right, we've got this extra little box at the top, which contains all the figures. And then we've got all the cardboard extras down below. So we'll come to the figures in a second. Here's the cardboard extras. So we've got all the villain cards that accompany the villain figures that come in the set. Let's just pop that off there. So we've got Toad, Blob, and Pyro as members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. We've got Spiral here with some extra rules information on the back. The Silver Samurai with extra rules information on the back. The Shadow King with extra rules information on the back. Sauron. Onslaught. Oh, hang on. There we go. Onslaught. Omega Red. Namor. Mojo. Oh, actually, that's interesting. So they got Namor. There's a villain. Is it a villainous version of Namor? We'll have a look at that in a sec. Mojo. The Mastermind. Marrow. Oh, a villain version of Marrow too. That's interesting for X-Men comic book lore fans. Legion. With a personality card there. Oh, so there's some extra rules for Legion, presumably. Lady Deathstrike. Emma Frost as a supervillain. Yeah, I like that. I like that, although they've used the X-Men artwork. Deathbird. The Landra's sister. The Dark Phoenix. Callisto. The Brood Queen. Avalanche. He gets a card of his own rather than being part of the Brotherhood gang. That's interesting. Arcade. There we go. So there's all the villain cards. Then you've got your extra tokens. And then all the decks of cards, which are just simply, I'm not going to go through them here on the top-down screen. Let's have a look at those when we look at the individual characters, shall we? So let's move that out of the way, and then let's bring up the little figure box that comes with it. So here's all the figures. So they're in like a 3-tray system in here. I had a peek before. So if I pop open the side there and slide this out, you'll see all the additional figures in the 3 trays. We've got all the villains on the top here. Who was I mentioning about villains before? Some of these are really big. I mean, like, look at the Brood figure there. We'll get these. I'll get a close-up cam on these in a minute. Oh, that's an interesting one with the kind of translucent flame back there with the Phoenix head on it. That's good. So who was it I was questioning about having a villainous version? And Emma Frost. Maybe they've done her as a purple anti-hero. So you just slide off the top tray there. Then there's a little sort of cover bit here. Oh yeah, there you go. So they've done her as an anti-hero, very appropriate in the purple colour scheme. Oh, Namor's interesting. Look, he's got like a little watery blue bit. We'll have a closer look at that in a second. Oh, and who's that? Who's that there now? Let's look at the back of the box on that one. Whoever taken that one from? Oh, it's Firestar. Of course it is. But she's got these little flamey sections here. We'll have a closer look at that in a second. And then the third layer, take that off here. And you can see, oh, they've done Lockheed as an anti-hero. That's cool. So I'm really loving the extra kind of added value aspects with the different colours. Like there's Rachel Summers with the flame behind her. And who's this here now? Oh, Laura, X-23, with like a little flamey bit behind her as well. 2 empty spaces there. That's interesting. Again, I'll consult the box. That's Storm and Old Man Logan. Ah, right. Okay, so they're the extras that have come with the 2 of the sets that I didn't go in on. I think Storm came in the Apocalypse, and the Old Man Logan, which section did he come in? I think he came in the Deadpool box, which I've not gone in on those. But these are all very neat and tidy. They've got, again, everyone's got their own little individual insert area for them. Is that right there, like that? No, it will be like that. There you go. And then put the lid on there. And then what it's also got, as you probably saw me consulting just a moment ago, we've got this little guide on the back of the extra internal box that shows you where everybody goes on what tray. So there we are. There's all the figures. Let's take a closer look at these, shall we? This is the bit that we're all waiting for, we're most excited about. Okay, we're starting off with the top tray, which is the villains. I've got Avalanche over there rotating around so you can take a closer look at the figure. You know he's a villain because he is in the red mould, and his card selection is a villain deck, a threat deck, and his Avalanche villain card. So we've got the starting tokens information on the front there, and then we've got any additional rules or special stuff listed on the back. He's got his little deck here with his actions. I think they give him little names. Let's have a quick look there. Yeah, Seismic Wave. Oh, just 2 Seismic Waves there. So he's got his little combat deck and then his little deck of threats. And another great sculpt. Because there's so many in this section, I'm going to spend very little time on the sculpts, but hopefully you've been able to take a closer look at him there, rotating around at the far edge of the screen. Okay, that's Avalanche. In the interest of time, I'm going to crack on and move on to the next character. Next villain here for you to take a look at is Deathbird, Lilandra's sister. Although, now I think about it, have I seen a Lilandra in this set at all, or in any of the expansions? That's interesting to have Deathbird without Lilandra, but there you go. But she's a villain, she's in the red mould, as you can see there. Hopefully you're getting a better appreciation of the figure sculpt as she rotates around on the far edge of the screen. Like all villains, she's got a villain deck here with her actions on it. We've got a threat deck here with her threat information. Oh, there's a little bit of chibi art of Vulcan. Has Vulcan appeared in the set? Jesus, I can't keep up. There's so much in this thing. That's interesting. And then Deathbird has her villain card with the setup information and any special rules or extra information that you need. So there you go. There's Deathbird. I love the feathery cloak on the sculpt on this one. Lovely, lovely touch. Nice bit of attention to detail there. So there we are. There's Deathbird. Right, let's keep this moving. There's so many of them to go through. The next villain there in the top tray is Mastermind, rotating around there for you to take a closer look at the figure and enjoy the sculpt. Like all other villains, he has a villain deck with his actions that's just mostly made up of the standard character arc. He's got his threats and then his villain card here with the special setup and the special rules described on it. I have to admit, this one actually, I will pause for a moment because I've got a bit of a love-hate thing going on with the figure. I like the Hellfire Club fancy banister behind him. I think that's a lovely touch. But the beard looks strange. I'm just waiting for him to rotate back around so the beard's in view. In fact, let's just speed that up a bit and do that. They've not put much in the way of kind of sculpted facial hair lines, so it looks like a weird kind of slapped-on mask. I can't describe it. Maybe if I bring him a bit closer. Oh, now he's gone all blurry. Yeah, the beard looks unusual on him. I can't quite get my head around the beard. So, I don't know. Is what it is, I suppose. But there you go, there's Mastermind. Keeping this train rolling then with so many of the minifigures to show off. We've got Callisto there next for you, the one-time leader of the Morlocks. Like all villains, she's moulded in the red, and she's got her villain deck with her actions. Again, just the standard character artwork on the villain deck. We have her threat cards. Oh, look, there's Caliban. Oh, and Mask. That's interesting, that, because now I've seen a Marrow, but is there a Caliban and a Mask that will appear later on? I don't think I've seen those. Is there an expansion that has the Morlocks in it? I keep looking at these threat cards and going, there's some artwork for a character that I've not seen a minifigure for. Anyway, and then there's her villain card with her special rules and extra information on it. And one thing I particularly like is the base of Callisto has got a little manhole cover on it to indicate, obviously the Morlocks residing in the tunnels underground under the city. So there we go, there's Callisto. And now we have Lady Deathstrike for you to enjoy. She's rotating around on the far edge of the screen. She's the next on that top villain tray. Like all the other villains, she's got a villain deck and a threat deck, although I'm going to have a peek at the threat deck because these sometimes give us... Oh yeah, look, so there's Bonebreaker from the Reapers, and Pretty Boy, and Skullbuster. I haven't seen any of those characters in any of the sets. So there's all this extra artwork for these extra characters that haven't appeared. How curious. She's got her action deck here, standard character artwork on the action deck, and then we have her setup on her villain card and any special rules of extra information on the other side. So there we go, there's Lady Deathstrike. Another great sculpt there with lots of momentum, lots of energy, really selling the kind of action dynamic of the game. So yeah, there we are, there's Lady Deathstrike. Let's keep this rolling. Keeping the show and tell of the villain train chugging on, next up we have the Shadow King for you over there, rotating around. I mentioned this on one of the earlier videos. I love how they acknowledge scale in the game and how the minifigures are shaped and sized to be reflective of how in the comic books the shape and size in the comic books. So Shadow King is a bit bigger, he's got his big old belly on him, and he looks all kind of imposing and nasty like he does in the comics. Like all the other villains, he's moulded in the red, and he's got his villain action deck using the standard character artwork on there. Let's have a look at the threat deck, see if there's any other artwork on here that we've not seen before. No, nothing there. And then his villain card with the starting information and the special rules and additional information. So there we go. There is the Shadow King for you to take a look at. On the turntable there now, we've got the Silver Samurai figure for you to take a closer look at and hopefully engage a little bit with the sculpt. Like all other villains, he comes with a villain deck, a threat deck, and a villain card here. Let's just have a quick peek in the threat deck to see if there's any cheeky extra artwork that we've not seen before. No, there isn't. He's got his action deck here, pretty standard, using the standard character artwork. The Tachyon Field Sword Duel. That's a lovely turn of phrase, isn't it? Tachyon Field Sword Duel. And then the starting information, and on the back of the card, any special rules or extra information. And an interesting sculpt, this one. I'm a fan of the Silver Samurai character. I like the Wolverine, the Japanese Wolverine kind of storylines of the late 70s, early 80s. So this is a character I have fond memories of. But there we are. There's the Silver Samurai for you to take a closer look at. All right, with so many going on, I'm just going to keep this quick and punchy. So we've got Omega Red next for you. Another villain from the top tray with his villain deck, his threat deck, and his villain card. Let's just have a quick peek at the threat cards in case there's any cheeky bonus artwork. Maybe a Maverick or something in there. No. Doesn't look like there is. Got his actions here using the standard character artwork, and then his main villain card with the starting information and the special rules and such like on the back. So there we go. There's a Mega Red. Another great sculpt. I like the his tendrils, his adamantium tendrils there coming out of his wrists. Look really awesome. Yeah. So there you go. There's a Mega Red. Keep it moving, Chris. So many to get through. Next on the list here, we have Arcade, the leader of Murder World. Another villain in his red sculpt. I like this one with his top hat and his cane there, showing off. And the big old bow tie, of course. He's got his villain deck, his threat deck, and his villain card with any special setup and starting information and special rules and such like on the other side. Let's have a quick peek at the threat deck, because now I'm convinced that there's loads of artwork in here that I haven't seen yet. So let's have a quick peek. No extra bonus artwork in the Arcade threat deck, but another great figure. I hope you're finding the little turntable useful there, but because there's so many to get through, let's keep this cracking on and get on to the next villain. Okay, here we have the 10th figure in the set. This is Sauron, the mutant from the Savage Lands. He's a big old dinosaur mutant villain there. Love the large wingspan on the figure. I'm not sure. My camera, maybe I should zoom out a little touch to really... No, that's as far out as the zoom will go. But hopefully you're getting a sense of the large wingspan, the scale of the minifigure there. As all other villains, he's got his villain deck here with the character artwork on the top. His threat deck, which I've already checked. There's no bonus artwork in there. And then we've got his villain card with the starting information. And then the special rules and such like on the other side. So there is the Sauron figure. Yeah, that's a cracking figure, that one. I love that big wingspan. He looks suitably kind of dinosaur-y from the Savage Lands. Great job on that one. Okay, carrying on, just taking the figures out the tray in order, we've got Pyro next. This is an interesting minifigure to take a closer look at on the turntable there, because he's the first we've seen with the translucent red flame effect on the end of his little flamethrowers there that you can then use for his fire manipulation mutant abilities. It's not the only one, there's several others. In fact, there's another one in this very tray that we're working through now, the tray of villains, but it's the first example we've had of that, which I really think adds to the quality of the sculpt, and if you're a mini painter, then that's obviously the attractive element there. So that's great. It appears in the game of Marvel United X-Men that the Toad, Blob and Pyro count as one single villain, so they've got a joint villain card there with special rules and statistics and information for each of them on it, a villain deck which includes all of them, and a threat deck that includes all of them. You can see there's 2 for Pyro, 2 for Blob, and 2 for Toad. Obviously, a kind of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants thing. What's interesting about that, though, is that Avalanche and Mystique have their own villain cards. Mystique, in fact, is an anti-hero from the core set. So, I don't know, curious decisions there, because when I think of that Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, I think Mystique, Toad, Blob, Pyro, Avalanche. I don't know. But maybe that's... Is that the cartoon interpretation? No, that was the Brotherhood from Days of Future Past as well, wasn't it? I don't know. I should check this stuff before I open my mouth while I'm recording. But there's the Pyro figure. Anyway, I'll just quickly jump onto Toad and Blob for you to take a look at those. And here's Toad then on the turntable. Same villain deck as Pyro, obviously, as I just mentioned. This is a great sculpt. It's got the Xavier School for Gifted Mutants sign all trashed in the rubble on the floor, and Toad there leaping across it with his tongue whipping power, with the classic, very classic green and orange kind of jester style costume there, which I think is interesting. But yeah, a really great sculpt. I'm just basically saying words to fill the air to make sure that there's time for you to have a look at the figure, because I've already talked about these cards here on the table. So yeah, that's Toad over there. I do think it's strange. They should have called that card the Brotherhood, maybe? I don't know. There has been a lot of different variations of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants over the years. And, of course, the Sisterhood of Mutants, too. So, I'm not... Yeah, there'll be reasons. They've made decisions because of reasons. Let's have a look at Blob now. And here we go then, to finish off this little trinity of villainy. There is the Blob making his way around for you to take a look at. I've completely run out of words to say, so I'm going to take a quick tea break while you take in Toad. Ooh, Toad, you're a bit offline on the camera there. Let's straighten you up. There we go. Quick tea break there. Enjoy the Toad. Another great example of them sculpting it with in scale. You know, he's got the Blob. I just called him Toad, didn't I, a second ago? He's got the Blob size and scale there. That'd be a great one to paint, I think. Well, there we are then, folks. There's Blob. Moving on. I'm into the bottom row of this top tray now, this top tray of villains, and these are the larger, more imposing, I think, across the bottom here. We have Mojo going around on the turntable there, the villainous leader of Mojo World, a kind of crazy reality TV combat arena kind of place, various storylines there. Well, there's been a long shot. Did I see a long shot figure? Every time I see one character and think about it, I then engage in my brain with another character from that kind of space of the X-Men, mythology. So maybe a long shot will come up. There's so much. I mean, there's so much stuff, and I haven't even gone in on everything. I'm losing track of what I have and haven't got. But here we go. Here's Mojo. I've had to zoom out a little bit for these larger figures, so apologies that you're maybe not quite getting the full appreciation of the detail of the figure, but this is an incredible sculpt here. Like all the other villains, he's moulded in the red. He's got a villain deck, a threat deck. Oh, his threat decks have got his war wolves on them, and a major domo there, look. Oh, Spiral. I think I've seen a Spiral figure. So there's his threat deck, and then the special setup information, and any special rules or additional info on the back there. I feel like this game is going to have a lot of longevity. Lots of, because there's so many villains to combat against. It will last you a while, but this is an unboxing vid. I've not engaged with gameplay as of yet, but hopefully you've enjoyed that closer look at the Mojo figure. Carrying on with these larger figures on the bottom row of Trade 1, we have the Brood Queen here, rotating around. Again, apologies, I've had to zoom out a bit, so you're not perhaps getting as full an appreciation of the level of detail in the sculpt, but it is, once again, that imposing kind of large villainous shape. I love how much they've kind of acknowledged scale in the figures on this game. Like all the other villains, she's moulded in the red. She's got a villain deck. She's got a threat deck, which presumably is loads of, her little broodlings doing their broody things. And then we've got the Brood Queen set up on one side, and then special rules and extra information on the other side. But that's a great one. I think if you're a miniature painter, that's one to really sink your teeth into and do a lot of work with that kind of alien xenomorph kind of art palette. I think could be something. I'll be keeping an eye out on the Instagrams for folks who've painted them up well. Yeah, definitely. Okay, there's the Brood Queen. Would you believe I'm still on the top tray, folks? It's the second to last figure, the penultimate figure of the top tray, and it's Onslaught I've got rotating around on the turntable there for you to enjoy. Another big, imposing, villainous figure, and they've acknowledged that in the sculpt, in the way that they've scaled it up. And like all the other villains, he's moulded in the red. He's got a villain deck, a threat deck, and his villain card here with the starting information and the special rules and extra info on the back. Let's have a quick peek of the threat deck. I didn't have a look at this one to see if there's any bonus artwork in here. No, there's not. If I remember the Onslaught storyline correctly, spoiler alert, I think he's like a villainous manifestation of Professor X's psychic abilities, but I could have remembered that wrong. So if I've remembered it right, I've just dropped a spoiler if you've never read that storyline. If I remembered it wrong, then I'm just making my own stuff up and it's fan fiction. There you go, there's Onslaught. And here we are then, folks, the final figure of the first tray. What would any collection of X-Men villains be without a Dark Phoenix? And this is a really impressive figure. because she's got that large translucent Phoenix flame effect there behind her, which I think the turntable's just about to roll around into. So really gives it a little bit of extra pop, a little bit of extra energy. It's a great sculpt. She is a villain. She's in the red mold to indicate that she's a villain, and she has a villain deck, a threat deck. I didn't take a cheeky peek to see if there's any extra artwork, so should we have a quick look? No, there's not. And then her special setup, starting information, and special rules, and extra deets like stats and whatnot. So there we go. There's the Dark Phoenix. I'm just going to take another minute, well, not quite a full minute, to let it fully rotate round to give you an appreciation of that front shot with the Phoenix flame effect coming up behind her. But there we go. That's the end. That's the end of the first trait of figures in the Pledge promo bonuses, folks. I mean, the Marvel United X-Men Kickstarter campaign, that's just one tray of the bonuses, the Pledge extras. Can you believe it? Let's move on to tray 2. I think it's the anti-heroes next. It is the anti-heroes next. We've got a row of anti-heroes here at the top of tray 2. If you've not seen the core set unboxing, or you're just generally unaware, the anti-heroes are marked by the pinky purpley mold colour, and they are able to serve two functions in the game. You can either use them as a hero on your hero teams, or you can use them as a villain to combat against. And so Legion is the first example that we have out of the promos, the Pledge promos bonuses. This means that they come with two decks, the anti-heroes. They have a hero deck and a villain deck, and all the various villain cards, depending on what you want to do with them. Legion's a particularly interesting character because he has multiple personality disorder. So they've also got an extra little deck of cards for him called the personality deck, which sits in this little personality card section. So I'm assuming that as the game goes on, he switches and different benefits and drawbacks are introduced depending on what multiple personality he's tapping into. So yeah, he's got a villain deck with villain actions as standard. He's got his threat deck here with all his different personalities, but then in his hero deck his different personalities are acknowledged as well. So we've got Jack Wayne as one of the pieces of artwork there, Sally, Adelphic, Tyrannix, Hypnoblock. So yeah, interesting, definitely a very interesting one that I'll be looking to get played soon to explore that, what that means, what implications that's going to have for the mechanics of the game. The sculpt of the figure is really interesting. He's stood on top of a brain to acknowledge the fact that he's, psychic. I think he's the full suite. He's psychic, he's telekinetic, he's telepathic. I'm pretty sure he's travelled through time at one point. So there's Legion, everybody, the first of the anti-heroes. Next on the anti-hero shelf here, we've got Marrow, a later leader of the Morlocks, who, like Callisto before her, learnt that you don't really get into it with Storm. She's an anti-hero, so she's in the pinky purple mould, and therefore has a hero deck and a villain deck as well. She's got the standard threats, the standard villain deck with the actions, with the kind of main character artwork, and then the villain card with the setup and the special rules and such like on the other side. In her hero deck, there's some additional artwork here. Her mutant power is these like kind of bone daggers that she pulls out of herself. So we've got her leaping into action with her bone daggers drawn. There she is throwing some bone darts. And then we've got Marrow all kind of spiking up, making herself being really, kind of inhospitable to anyone who might try and, grapple her. And then we've got here the artwork that inspired the figure sculpt. So, yeah, bone armor, bone weapons, and jewel hearts. So there's Marrow, with her two decks, and in the pink sculpt there. And just once again, continuing the theme, she's got the manhole cover at her feet to indicate the, obviously the Morlocks living in the Morlock tunnels underground. So there we go. There she is. There's Marrow. Next in the anti-heroes here in the Marvel United X-Men Pledge promos, we've got Spiral, And there she is rotating around for you to take a closer look at the sculpt. She is part of the kind of Mojo verse. She's Mojo's right-hand lady. She controls all the television controls, but she's also pitched in with the X-Men when it suits her purposes. So she has a hero deck and a villain deck and can fulfill both those roles in your game. In the hero deck, we've got additional artwork, as always. Here's Spiral doing some spirally teleportation stuff. She's got this teleportation. I think she's actually magical. It's not mutant abilities. I think it's magical or alien abilities. I can't fully remember. Here she is with all her multiple arms all tooled up to do a bit of General Grievous on someone. There she is doing more General Grievousy stuff on someone. And is there another bit of artwork here? And there you go, there's her doing her spell dance. Yeah, I thought it was magic. Apologies, folks, from the gap in my X-Men mythological lore kind of knowledge there. I do apologise, but there's the hero deck. She's also interesting because she's got 2 villain cards. She's got this the standard card with the setup and then the special rules and such like on the other side, but then this extra card for team versus team mode. Which I think is interesting. Again, this is an unboxing. I've not engaged particularly deeply with the rules at all, so I'm not sure what the implications of that are, but it's something I'll certainly be looking into very, very quickly. So there we go. There is Spiral. And here we have the last of the anti-heroes from the top row of tray 2. It is Namor. Or Namor? Namor? I've never been fully clear how to pronounce that. I'm going to go with Namor. This is the first example on the sculpt here of the blue translucent that I've got. I'm pretty sure the Iceman in the Gold Team expansion has got a kind of blue translucent thing going on, obviously being Iceman. But this is the first example I have in my collection. I've not gone in on the Gold Team. He is an anti-hero, so he's indicated as such by the pink. Classic Namor look there with the trident and the green scaly underpants. There we are. But he has a hero deck and a villain deck, so he's got all the villainy stuff, such as the villain card here with the special rules, the threat deck, and then is this the hero deck? No, that's the villain deck there. So let's have a look at the artwork on the hero deck here. Got Namor leaping out of the water, coming into action. As Namor sat on his throne in Atlantis, being all, kingly and boss-like. Here he is getting into some action with his trident, showing somebody what for. And then, of course, the piece of artwork that has inspired the minifigure sculpt. So, yeah, there we go. There's his hero deck. Avenging Son of Atlantis and the King of Atlantis are the names on his 2 special powers there. So Namor, yeah. And Namor's in the X-Men set. Some people may not know this. Namor's in the X-Men set because there's been some whole kind of lore thing around it's been determined that he's one of the very first mutants, that his powers are a mutation, a human mutation, not because he's like some Atlantean genetic thing. I don't know. It's not an area. Once again, I have to apologise for my X-Men lore gap there. Namor's not a guy that I really have ever read extensively or know a great deal about. I just know that he's always had a thing for Sue Storm, and then when Sue Storm didn't want any of him, he had an attempt at cracking on Emma Frost, and he lives under the sea. That's as much as I know. Oh, and he was part of the Illuminati. There you go. I've got a third bit of info there for you. And that's it. That's all I know. So that ends the anti-heroes on the top row of tray 2. Getting into the heroes now on tray 2 of the Pledge promos. Looks like we've got kind of New Mutants, X-Factor, X-Forcey folks coming up here now at a glance. The first of which is Magic, Ilyana Rasputin here. Loving the base on this because of her kind of portally transportation powers and her magic sword. Because she's a hero, she just has one single deck, the hero deck, and she's moulded in the blue colour scheme. She's got a card here that goes in her starting hand, but let's have a look at the artwork. Here's Magic leaping out of a portal with her sword ready to do some damage to a villain. There she is, looking all menacing and going, come at me, bro. Come at me. I'm Magic. I'll take care of business. She's in her New Mutants uniform here, actually, just looking at that more closely. The more recent version of Magic's in the kind of black leather, more intimidating with the kind of headpiece on it. Here's Magic using a sword to slice and dice some baddies. And then we have the artwork, of course, as we've seen with all the others, that indicate that's inspired the figure sculpt. So we've got stepping discs and the soul sword, there we go, and mystical armor. So yeah, there's Magic, getting into sort of a little area, a little batch here of New Mutiny folks, or subsequent kind of X Factor, X Force, Gen X kind of members and stuff. So there's Magic. The next figure here on the second tray is Sunspot, and like all the other heroes, Sunspot has his own hero deck here, which is indicated by the character art on the back and the coloured background. Let's have a look at the artwork on the main body of the cards. We've got Sunspot using his powers to leap into action. We're getting a bit of a theme here. We have Sunspot using his kind of sun laser fiery blast thing. There's the Sunspot. Is that the one that has inspired the sculpt of the figure? It is. There you go. There's the one that's inspired the sculpt of the figure. And then we've got one here with him all glowing, looking menacing, ready for action. And that's called Solar Radiation Absorption, Solar Rechanneling. And that's it. Just those two with names on them. So there we go. There is Sunspot. We've got another classic New Mutants character here in the set, Warlock. He's over on the far side of the screen there, rotating around on the turntable for you to have a closer look at the figure sculpt. This is a really cool figure sculpt, this one actually. I think he looks awesome, and this would be a great little project for someone to paint up. I think his colour scheme is really interesting. Let's have a look at his hero deck. He's got one of his cards there is a starting hand card, but there's a better look at the character artwork on the back of the card. Let's have a look at the character artwork on the main body of the card. Okay, there's Warlock with some wings flapping through the air. There's Warlock creating a kind of arm cannon to take care of some business. Perhaps someone's been threatening Doug. There's Warlock charging himself up on a giant Duracell battery, it looks like to me. And then we've got Warlock here in the pose that has inspired the figure sculpt with his little kind of buzzsaw hand thing going on there. Yeah, I love seeing classic figures like this. Techno-organic feeding, that one's called. Nanite weapon. And techno-organic life form. Yeah, a really interesting character in the books. He's been hanging out with our man Doug, I think, in the current House of X, Power of X stuff, but a tremendous sculpt, I'm sure you'll agree, and be a great little paint mission for someone who's into their figure painting there. Absolutely. So there's Warlock. Cracking on, keeping this thing going, because I think it's going to be a very long video going through each of these figures one by one. I'm looking at how much is left on tray 2 and what I've got left to come on tray 3 yet, but this is Mirage, otherwise known as Danny Moonstar here, with her like kind of laser bow kind of abilities here. There's the minifigure going around for you to take a close look at the sculpt. Let's have a look at the artwork on the cards. Here we've got Danny leaping through the air, getting into the action, firing off a shot there. She's got... Oh, there's a whole thing with a bear with Mirage. The Death Bear or something, I can't remember. But yeah, there is a whole thing with a bear. Oh my god, what's the thing with the bear? In fact, there's a whole thing with Mirage where... Didn't she go out into space and become like an Asgardian god, like a Valkyrie warrior, and got imbued with like Thor-like powers by Odin? Wasn't that a thing? Was that a thing? Or if I just... Is this another example of me making up fan fiction in my head or mashing two separate stories together? Could possibly be. There's an awful lot of very convoluted, complex X-Men lore, but I got a feeling Mirage became a god at one point. Riding a Pegasus horse. Anyway, so there we go. There's Mirage with the bear. There's Mirage taking a shot with the arrow. This is, of course, the one that inspired the minifigure. Empathic Illusion. Neural Arrow. Oh, and there's another one. Resist Death. Some great artwork on there. So there you go. There's Mirage. And I said I thought it was going to be a long video, and then I went off on weird tangents about Mirage being a god. So what are you going to do, eh? And here we have, finishing up row 2 of tray 2, we've got Wolfsbane here, Ran Sinclair, who I'm much more familiar with from her time in X Factor during the late 90s, but another classically well-known New Mutant member. She's a hero, so she's in the blue mould, and she's got a hero deck here. Let's have a quick look at the hero deck artwork. So here's the theme again. They've obviously followed a formula. Ran, Sinclair, Wolfsbane leaping into action there. We've then got Ran, Sinclair, I don't know what she's doing there. Looks like she's just finished a lunch, having a bite to eat, and didn't want anyone to steal it, so she's eating it in secret. That's what that looks like to me there. Then we've got, getting all, like really tapping into her wolfy mutant abilities with claws out, ready to do some slicing and dicing. And then we have here, of course, like all the others, the artwork that has inspired the minifigure sculpt. And we've got the names of them here, yeah, Hyperkeen Senses and Feral Attack, yeah. So there we go, there's Wolfsbane, and again, like the others, decked out in her more kind of traditional New Mutant gear there. But another fantastic minifig. I've not spent a lot of time talking about the sculpts, particularly, in the interest of keeping this video short, but I'm hoping, but please do let me know in the comments down below, I'm hoping that the rotating kind of close-up cam there is giving you some insight into the figures that you might be looking for. Right, into row 3 of tray 2. What an incredible selection of promos and bonuses to get as part of your Kickstarter. Lots of added value here, I'm sure you'll agree. But here is Havoc, Alex Summers, Cyclops' brother, rotating around there on the close-up cam for you to enjoy. I'm just going to straighten him up a bit because I felt like he was a bit off kilter. And great sculpt to this one. I like getting into the action. Like all the other heroes, he's moulded in blue and he comes with a hero deck. So let's have a look at the artwork on his hero cards. And they're following the same formula. Here's Havoc leaping into action. Here's Havoc using his powers, this kind of energy blast thing that he does from his chest. There's a bit more of Havoc using his powers, as indicated by the swirly lines. And here's more Chest Blast. This is, of course, the one that has inspired the figure sculpt. We've got the names here. Yeah, Plasma Blast. There you go. That's what it's called. And Absorb Cosmic Energy. So that's nice. And then, like all the other hero decks, it's got the full character art and the coloured background on the other side there. So there you go. There's Havoc, otherwise known as Alex Summers. Here's Multiple Man now then, the next figure on the on the third row of tray 2, Jamie Madrox. I like this one with the two miniatures on the same base there, obviously indicating his mutant ability to replicate and duplicate himself. He's an interesting character, actually. He's had some very strange and unusual story arcs through my time of reading X-Men comics, and sometimes I really loved the character and sometimes I really hated the character, which I think is interesting. But conceptually, the idea, of course, is that these different Jamies kind of start to adopt different personalities the further away they get from the source Jamie at the centre. So here is his hero deck with the artwork, the main character artwork there on the back. He's got a starting card here. Let's have a look at the artwork on the rest of the deck. Spreading dupes, here he is, just duplicating himself several times. We've got Multiple Man, again with several duplicates of himself appearing in the artwork. We've got this one here. Is that the one that's inspired? No, that's the one that's... So we've got this one here again with more dupes. Dupes assemble. I like that one. And then we've got this one here, which is the inspiration, of course, for the minifigure sculpt. Kinetic duplication. Oh, yeah, there was some whole thing about him when he gets hit and another one pops out. I can't remember. There was a weird one where they found the source, Jamie Madrox. What the hell was that storyline? And he was like in a basement and stuff. Once again, I could be fanficking random stuff in my head here now, but a really wonderful sculpt. I like the kind of chibi, super deformed version of Jamie Madrox there, and having the figure facing in two directions with a duplicate on it. Yeah, wonderful. Great little painting mission for someone there, because he's got his brown coat on to add a splash of variety to the colour palette. So yeah, there we go. Multiple Man. Okay, it's Polaris next here now. Lorna Dane with her striking green hair on the artwork there. Yet another estranged child of Magneto. And Lorna's whole thing is she's got Magneto's magnetic powers. She inherited that from her father. But yeah, how many babies is this guy going to leave lying around all over the planet? But here we go. Here's Polaris. So let's take a closer look at the artwork here, and then you can enjoy obviously the figure sculpt at the far edge of the screen. Following the same formula, here's Polaris leaping into action. Here's Polaris using her powers, doing some magnetic-y manipulation thing here. Here's Polaris moving some metal around with her magnetic powers. And then here is the card art, the artwork that has inspired the figure sculpt. Magnetic manipulation, magnetic field, they've described them as there. There you go. So yeah, there's Polaris, Lorna Dane. Wasn't she married or in a relationship with Havoc for quite a long time? I think she was. But yeah, there we go. There's Polaris. I enjoyed the look of the figure over there on the far edge of the screen. Cracking on then with the third row of tray 2 and more kind of X Factor members here. We've got Strong Guy, Guido. There, nice big figure to acknowledge the scale, his kind of large mutant powers that have made him big and strong, hence the name Strong Guy. Here's the artwork on his cards, following the formula once again. There's Strong Guy leaping into action. Here's Strong Guy throwing a punch. Here's Strong Guy. This is the one that's, I think, pretty sure has inspired the sculpt on the figure there, standing ready for action. And then here's Strong Guy showing off his big old Strong Guy muscles, getting the guns out. Kinetic energy absorption, they're all called. So yeah, there you go. There's Strong Guy, and again, just another great example of the game acknowledging the scale, really thinking about how the lore has them in comparison, size comparison to one another. Strong Guy is a big old dude. He's depicted as a big old muscular dude in the comic books, and so they've made the minifig a nice big old muscular dude, which I really appreciate. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the look at the figure rotating around there on the turntable. Okay, it's Boom Boom next from the X-Force. That's what I most vividly remember her from, but yeah, here's Boom Boom. She's definitely in her kind of more classic X-Force uniform, the pink uniform with the sunglasses and such like. Let's have a look at the artwork on the cards. Again, following the formula, there's Boom Boom leaping into action. Here's Boom Boom using her powers, throwing one of her kind of Boom Boom fireball things. That's the running into action. Here's the one that has inspired the sculpt on the minifigure, with her holding her fireball just above her head there, ready to throw it. And then here's a very classic kind of Boom Boom shot with the bubblegum, which she was very well known for, synonymous with the character from her time in X-Force in the 90s. And that's Time Bomb and Meltdown. So there you go, folks. There's Boom Boom, another really exciting sculpt and interesting figure, and a splash of some new colour there as well, if you're looking to paint up your minifigs. And here we are then, bringing row 3 of tray 2 to an end. We have Blink. Here is the figure rotating around for you to take a closer look at over there on the far side of the screen. Really great, another great sculpt here for you to enjoy. But let's have a look at the artwork on the card in the meantime. So there's the character art on the back with the green background, and then we've got Blink using her powers there, portaling through one of her little Blink portal things. Here's Blink throwing her little kind of portal daggery things that she does. There is the artwork that's inspired the minifigure, of course, as always. And then we've got Blink using her warp portals, popping out to see what's going on. Hey, what's happening around here, eh? Warp portals. Yeah, there's 4 warp portals there on the name card. So yeah, there we go. There's Blink. I like the quiver with the Blink diamond things that she uses. Although that's the later Blink costume. That's after the Age of Apocalypse, I'm pretty sure. So that's the Blink, because Blink died, and then another Blink came back into the main Marvel universe from the Age of Apocalypse universe. I'm pretty sure, could once again be another one of those fan fiction things. X-Men lore is like just a big old mushed up kind of convoluted mess in my head sometimes, but I'm pretty sure that's the Blink who came back to the main universe from the Age of Apocalypse universe. But in any case, there's the minifigure for you to take a look at, and there's the deck of cards. Let's crack on. All right then, taking us into the last row there of tray 2, we've got Firestar. Another great example of the translucent flame effect there, reflecting her fire powers. And I like the way they've sculpted it so that she's raised up a bit out of the air. There's not many of them that they have kind of with a flying effect, but they've managed to pull it off with Firestar there, so I quite like that. Let's have a closer look at the artwork on the main body of the card, shall we? So there we go, there's Firestar. Following the formula, leaping into action using her powers. There's Firestar with some like kind of flaming fireball-y hand things going on, about to show a villain what for. We've got doing some flame blasts with her hands there. And then we've got the artwork here, which has inspired the minifigure sculpt. Although I noticed Firestar has got red background around these three here. It's not consistent with the rest of the deck. Are these starting? No. Well, that's interesting. I wonder why they chose to do that. There's probably a reason. Have they all been a colour change when it's been the ones with the written text on them, rather than just the symbols? No, they haven't, have they? That's interesting. There must be a reason for that. But there we go. There's Firestar. Okay then, so for those keeping track, we're on the second figure of the fourth row of tray 2 here, and it's Warpath. There he is, there's the minifigure rotating around on the close-up cam on the turntable there for you to take a look at the sculpt and appreciate the figure. Let's have a quick look at the artwork on the card art. So again, following the pattern that we've seen with all these hero decks, we've got Warpath leaping into action with his daggers drawn. There is Warpath running into action with his daggers behind him, ready for use. Here is the Warpath artwork that has inspired the minifigure, of course, which again we've seen that pattern with all the characters to date. And then here is Warpath with his daggers drawn, kind of slinking around, ready to take care of some business. And then has he got some name cards? Yeah, superhuman physical abilities and acute senses to acknowledge his powers. And again, another great figure there. I like the... it's another example of the scale being acknowledged, you know, that he's just slightly more muscular and beefy and kind of imposing compared to some other characters, because that's what his superpower and the way he looks in the comic book is. So, yeah, really appreciating that. So there we go, folks. There's Warpath, figure 2 of tray 2, row 4. And here we have Phantom X next, going around there on the turntable for you to take a closer look at the minifigure sculpt. Super convoluted character here. I've read some stuff with Phantom X in it that just bent my head. I was reading the new X-Men Grant Morrison run, and there was a Phantom X storyline in there, I seem to recall, which was just like all over the place. But he's part of the Weapon X program, so he's had storylines with the likes of Deadpool and Wolverine and such like in the past. But yeah, weird convoluted character. He got split into a male and female character, and the male character was having a relationship with Psylocke, but then she kind of just carried on the relationship with both the male and the female character, and they were in like this odd throuple. This was in the Dark X-Force, you know, when they were kind of like an assassin hit squad, like a kind of dark Spyring style X-Men team. Very strange. But let's have a closer look at the artwork on the card anyway. I keep going on about how long I'm worried this video is going to go, and then I keep adding these random tangents in. So here it is, Phantom X. He's leaping over like a chimney, top of a chimney there, about to kick somebody. Here is Phantom X using his illusion powers, and you know that he's using these kind of mind illusion powers because, of course, he is touching his temple. That's the rules. Phantom X, he's not shy of a gun, using his firearms. So here's Phantom X with his pistols drawn. And then here is the artwork, of course, that has inspired the sculpt on the figure. And I'm loving the kind of flowing, flappy coat there. Got a real sort of John Woo movie vibe there. And then we have analytic intelligence and misdirection and cybermind there. So there you go, folks. There is the Phantom X figure. Well, folks, would you believe it? We have made it to the last figure of tray 2 here with Feral. So there she is on the turntable, making her way around for you to have a closer look at the sculpt of the minifig. And here is her hero deck with the character art on the back there and the coloured background. Let's have a look at the artwork on the cards themselves. There's Feral being all animalistic and grrr at someone. There's Feral leaping through the air, leaping into action, following the formula. We've got this one here, which is that the one that's... no, it's not. More kind of claws out, leaping into action kind of stuff going on there. And then, here it is. Here is the artwork that has inspired the minifigure. And her powers, claws and teeth, and acute senses there. So there's the Feral figure. And the final figure of Tray 2, would you believe? We have only been through, like, what was that, around 35, 36 figures so far. But stick around, please, folks, because we've got a third whole tray of figures to enjoy here. And there's some belting characters in that one. So let's not delay. Let's get into section 3. Right, here we are then, ladies and gents. We're on to the third and final tray of the Pledge promos from the Marvel United X-Men set. The first figure here is Kitty Pryde. There she is going around on the turntable for you to take a closer look at, using her phasing powers to go through a wall. Here is her hero deck. Now, I think we've got this anti-hero Lockheed here. In the pink, I'm just going to add him to the side there, blowing his flame. I think there might be some special rules around Kitty because Lockheed appears in the hero deck, and there's no villain deck for him. There's no hero deck for Lockheed, so I think he must be aligned to Kitty Pryde somehow. Although how, I'm not fully sure because I'm not engaged with the rules. There might be something that illustrates that there, but we've got her phasing powers. She's obviously phasing an ally through the fist of a sentinel there to save him from danger. There is the artwork that has inspired the sculpt there with Lockheed in the mix. Here is Kitty Pryde phasing through a wall, about to lay a punch on some villainous person or other. And then we've got Kitty Pryde with her Beelzebub Lockheed doing his fire breath thing. So I've got a feeling the Lockheed minifigure is somehow connected or used with the Kitty Pryde figure because he's got no deck of his own. There's no villain deck, even though he's in this kind of pink colour. And so I think there's obviously, there are double acts, they're a double team in the comic books. I think there's obviously something there, but I don't know. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments below who's got further along than me. I'm just unboxing right now, who's engaged with the gameplay. Cracking on with row 1 then, we next have Nightcrawler. So I'm now starting to get a bit of a vibe that this is an Excalibur row because I've just seen some of the other characters coming up there. This is so starting with Kitty Pryde, then Nightcrawler, and then you'll see with the next characters there. So here's Nightcrawler. You've got a lovely bit of Bamf power going on the sculpt there, and I like the way they've got that kind of dynamic look of him being up in the air, bamfing into action using his teleport powers. Let's have a closer look at the artwork on the card, shall we? So there's Nightcrawler poised for action there. We've then got, there we go, Bamf. Anyone need a lift? And this is obviously the artwork that has inspired the figure sculpts there. We've then got Bamf on guard, acknowledging Nightcrawler's love of kind of sword stuff, using swords. He has a cutlass. Is it a cutlass? There's probably a much more detailed sword name for it there. And then there's Bamf, Fear No Evil. So there's the Nightcrawler sculpt. Oh, it's just rotated round to face the front as I was saying that then, and that was a good shot of the figure. So there's Nightcrawler, the second, or technically the third figure of row 1 in tray 3. It's Captain Britain next, the Brian Braddock incarnation of the character. It's obviously the Betsy Braddock now in the modern day, but this is, I think, further reinforcing that this is an Excalibur row. If we've had Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, and now Captain Britain there, tremendous sculpt. Definitely might get. I'm not much of a figure painter, but I might get someone to paint that one up for me to go with my Marvel Legends, my Union Jack Marvel Legends collection. Let's have a closer look at the artwork on the cards then. So following the formula, there's Captain Britain leaping into action. There's Captain Britain looking all inspirational and superpowered there. Rule Britannia set. Here's Captain Britain getting into the action, about to lay a punch on a naughty villain. And then we've got Captain Britain, again, looking poised for action there. And then his powers are channel interdimensional energy. Oh, God, that's a convoluted bit of Excalibur comic book lore there. And then, oh no, they're all just channel interdimensional energy. So there you go. There's the Captain Britain sculpt rotating around for you to have a closer look at. Lovely figure that. I like, again, the scale. He's got the musculature that's reflective of the way the character is in the comic books. Our next figure on the first row of the third tray is the Rachel Summers version of the Phoenix character. There's the minifigure over there, rotating around for you to take a quick look at. She's got an interesting deck, actually, because she's got one here that clearly expresses that it must be at the bottom of the deck. I don't think I've noticed that happening with any of the other characters. That's not to say that it hasn't, but that's the first time I've noticed it. And then she's got one here that goes in her starting hand as well, so that's interesting, isn't it? But let's take a closer look at the artwork on the cards. There's the Phoenix Cry. Is that the one that might be the one that... No, maybe not. Then we've got the Phoenix flying into action with all a kind of flaming psychic power thing going off there. Here's the Phoenix using her Phoenix Force avatar. And then we've got, there you go, there's the one that's inspired the sculpt on the minifigure there. Just kind of looking all imposing and scary. The spiky Rachel Summers version of the Phoenix character. Yeah, there you go. Time manipulation and then uncanny power. As long as this card is face up in the storyline, other heroes must ignore and skip Phoenix cards in the storyline. And that's the starting hand one. Interesting. But I like that. I like the fact that there's a bottom of the deck one. It means there's further kind of extra gameplay mechanics and layers to uncover as you play along through. But oh, and just to focus on the sculpt for a minute, here is yet another example of that flaming translucent sculpt, and using that to kind of lift the character in the air to make the kind of flight effect happen with the minifigure. So really appreciating that. And there we go. There's Phoenix, Rachel Summers. And the final character here of the first row, tray 3, is Dupe. I'm sure many folks will be very pleased to see this classic kind of piece of weird and wonderfulness in the world of the X-Men. Let's take a closer look at the artwork in his card deck. So we've got Dupe pulling a funny doopy face. We've got Dupe with his camera out, which he's well known for doing. He likes to document things as they're going along, directing the action. There's Dupe pointing at someone and saying, "Oi, pack that in, or you'll have to deal with Dupe." And then we've got Dupe travel across the margins. Some acknowledgement of the fact that the Dupe character could break the fourth wall and do weird interdimensional stuff. Which is the one that... So none of these... Oh, that's interesting. I think that's the first time we've come across this. None of these are the artwork that's been used for the sculpt. I suppose that's the nearest one, but then that one there with the camera doesn't have the camera on the tripod, or does it? So that's quite interesting. But there you go. There's the Dupe figure. Here we are then on to row 2 of the third and final tray, and we're kicking off with the Gwenpool character here. Quite an elaborate sculpt on this one, to acknowledge. I think this is a replication, actually, of a cover, a quite famous cover of Gwenpool with a big kind of bazooka launcher thing here. But let's take a closer look at the artwork on the cards. So here we go. We've got Gwenpool kicking an AIM dude in the face, taking care of some heroic business. Here's Gwenpool with getting a katana out and firing some rockets off in the direction of some villains. Here's Gwenpool with the little shark character whose name has just suddenly escaped my brain, acknowledging the kind of meta-referential elements of the character there because he's reading an amazing fantasy issue there. And then we've got the shot that has inspired the sculpt of the figure there with the bazooka and the little walking shark character. The little walking shark character has just recently had a webcomic that I've heard about that I've not checked out yet, but it's interesting. The Gwenpool comic book went in a weird direction for me. It started off strong, but then I couldn't stick with it, so I don't really know. Oh, there you go. Jeffrey the Land Shark. Thank you, deck of cards, for filling the gap that I had in my brain a moment ago. So there you go. There's the Gwenpool figure. Okay, carrying on then, we've got Dagger from the Cloak and Dagger double team. Interesting that she comes first in the pack. Cloak's next, in fact, but there you go, I suppose. Just there's possibly more to do with maximising the space in the tray there, I suspect. But here we go, let's take a look at the artwork on her card. So there she is, Dagger, firing off her daggery shots coming out of the Cloak shadow teleport dimension thing that he does. There we go, there's Dagger healing Cloak. Here's Dagger getting into it with a couple of street thugs with balaclavas on. And then here is the card art that has inspired the figure sculpt. We've got names for the powers there. Light Force Daggers, Light Force Purge, Bond, and Light Force Generation. So there you go, there's Dagger. Let's have a look at Cloak. And here's Cloak. There he is on the turntable over there for you to take a close look at. I had to zoom out a little bit. He's got this big billowing cloak to be reflective of his powers that has meant that he's a slightly larger scaled up figure. But again, I like that because the way they've used the cloak, they've managed to lift the character into the air and make that kind of flight motion kind of thing go on. So that's really great. Let's have a quick look at the artwork on... Oh, you've fallen a bit out of line there, Cloak. Let's put you back in line. So here's Cloak again, dealing with some balaclava street toughs, or bank robber maybe there. Here is Cloak with Dagger, using his powers to bring her into the action. Here's Cloak looking after Dagger after she's perhaps had an injury during some combat with some villains. And then there we go, there's the artwork on the card that has inspired the figure sculpt. Dark Force channeling, Bond, and Dark Force teleportation. So there you go, there's the Cloak and Dagger double team for you. So the next character on the second row is Longshot, who a little earlier on when I had the Mojo and Spiral characters out, I was saying, is there a Longshot? Have I seen a Longshot? I hadn't seen him, but there is one in the box. There he is. Oh, he's a bit offline there on the centre. That's straighten you up, Longshot. So there's a Longshot figure sculpt. He's bounding over a wall, throwing his signature daggers, his throwing knives at some naughty villain or another. Let's have a look at the artwork on the card. There's Longshot using his luck abilities to avoid some laser blasts that are being shot at him. Here's Longshot with his throwing knives, chucking them at a villain. Is that the one that's... No, that's not the one. Seen that one already. Here's Longshot being all cheeky and arrogantly overconfident, balancing his throwing knife on the end of his finger. And then there is the artwork that has inspired the figure sculpt. So healing factor and probability manipulation. There you go, that's the name of the power there. I called it just his luck power thingy before. But there you go, there's Longshot. Oh, if I lean forward there, I'm in the shadow of the camera. Didn't realise that. How many times have I done that while I've been filming and not noticed? Apologies if that has been the case. But there you go, there's Longshot. The last character of Row 2, Tray 3 in the Pledge promos for the Marvel United X-Men game is Sunspot. Here he is on the rotating cam for you, the close-up cam for you to have a closer look at. And here is the artwork on his card. So there's the back of the card. And then we've got Sunspot here using his flamey sun powers. Then there is the obligatory leaping into action shot. And that might be the one that's inspired the figure sculpt. Let's see. Oh no, I think that's more like the one that's perhaps inspired the figure sculpt. And then we've got this one here with him all kind of flaming up, being all sunfiery, as per his name. Solar fire and absorb solar radiation are the names of his powers there. Lovely figure, once again using the translucent flame sculpt to give the character some lift off the ground, so that it feels like his flight powers are being used, which is really tremendous. But yeah, there you go, there's Sunspot, and that's the last one of Row 2. Getting into the third row here of the third tray, we're next onto the Wolverine variant figure Weapon X. Although there are two empty slots in here. I think I mentioned this when I did the unboxing section, which is for the Mohawk Storm and the Old Man Logan Wolverine. Now, Mohawk Storm, I'm pretty sure, is in the Apocalypse, Horseman of the Apocalypse expansion box. And the Old Man Logan, I've got a feeling, is in the Deadpool one. But I didn't go in on either of those, so those are going to have to be 2 empty spaces for me. So here is the Weapon X Wolverine sculpt. I love this one. Really comic book accurate, actually. It vividly reminds me of reading the issues where we found out that kind of Weapon X experimentation lore where he escaped from the facility in Canada or wherever it was. But let's have a look at the cards there. So there we go. We've got the Weapon X kind of getting all feral and aggressive. And we've got Weapon X leaping into action, taking out some of the soldiers, the guards at the facility. Here's Weapon X slicing and dicing. That's what he does. He's the best at what he does. And then we got this Weapon X one here, which I'm pretty sure is the artwork that inspired the sculpt of the figure. And we've got adamantium claws and healing factor is 2 kind of main, most famous powers, mutant power abilities there. But yeah, what a fantastic sculpt. Lots of fine detail on this one. This would be quite a wonderful little painting project for someone who likes to paint their minifigures. I tell you what, folks, you can tell I'm starting to get tired after going through each and every one of these figures individually, back to back. I'm tripping over words. I'm much more. I hope you are enjoying my commitment and dedication to showing you every figure one by one from the set. And now we're on to X-23, Laura here. Let's take a closer look at the artwork on her card. There's Laura leaping through the air with her foot daggers. Foot claws sticking out, ready to deal some damage to a naughty person there. We've then got X-23 claws drawn, ready for action. Then we've got X-23 taking a swipe, getting all slicey and dicey, just after her genetic clone daddy. And then here we are, X-23 bouncing forward into action as, I don't know, like a grenade goes off behind her or something. And this is obviously the one that has inspired the figure sculpt, because you can see we've got the translucent flame effect behind her there. So, yeah, there we are. And we've got X-23, Master Martial Artist, Tactical Genius, and Healing Factor as her named powers in the deck. So yeah, there you go. Interesting choice to give X-23 the translucent flame effect there as the explosion goes off behind her as she's leaping forward into action. But I'm all for it. You know, really dynamic, really energetic figure there. And what a great character X-23 is as well. So there you go, X-23. Moving forward with the third row here, we've got Dazzler there rotating around for you to take a closer look at in her classic kind of blue uniform with the jacket there. Let's take a closer look at the artwork on the cards here. Following the formula, we've got Dazzler leaping into action. Here's Dazzler using her kind of light, sparkly powers there with a little wink, cheeky wink. Or she's closing one eye to improve her aim. I'm not sure. There we are. Then we got Dazzler. Part of her character is the fact that she's a singer. She's famous. She's an international singing artist, and there she is with her microphone, using her light powers to enhance the performance that she's giving. And then we've got Dazzler here. This is the artwork that has inspired the minifigure sculpt, with her fingers out using her light powers there. What do they call them? They call them sound conversion and light projection. There you go. They've named the powers on the cards. So there you go. There's Dazzler. On to the last figure of row 3 now, and it's Pixie. An interesting choice of character, actually, because Pixie, to my mind, is a more contemporary X-Men character, but they've not had... These are all quite classic, 80s and 90s characters up to this point. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. Let's take a closer look at Pixie's card artwork while we've got the figure rotating around on the close-up cam for you all there. And here we are, following the formula again. Here's Pixie leaping into action. Then we've got Pixie with her little kind of psychic dagger thing out, ready to deal with a villain. Here's Pixie doing some pixie dust, lightning strike, psychedelic stuff. Can you tell I'm less familiar with this character than others? And then we've got Pixie here with the... this is the Cyclops and Jean Grey, I think, that travel through time. I think that's the... old X-Men founding team that got pulled into the future. I think maybe possibly. I don't know. And then which one of these is the one that's the? Is that one? That's the artwork that has inspired the figure sculpt. So there we go. There's Pixie, and that's the end of row 3 of tray 3. We're now getting into the 4th and final row of the tray. We're in the end game now, folks. It's the 4th row of the 3rd tray. We're in the final stretch here, and these guys are the Canadian mutant team Alpha Flight, and we're starting with North Star. Got North Star over there for you, spinning around on the close-up cam so you can take a closer look at the figure. Let's have a look at the artwork on his cards. So there we've got North Star standing ready for action, looking all, you know, heroic and stoic and ready to, you know, sort something out. Then we've got North Star using his Power Blast abilities, flying through the air. Here's North Star using his Super Speed. Is it North Star who can do fast stuff? I'm pretty sure it is. Zipping around there. And then we've got the card art that has inspired the sculpt there, as we've seen with all the other characters with North Star. Is it named his... yeah, Alpha Flight, Concussive Blasts, and Flight there. Maybe he can't go fast. I've got a feeling like in the recent X Factor Investigations comic book, he's been able to go super fast. But am I confusing something there? Once again, could be fan fiction on my part. But there you go, there's North Star. Next up from the Alpha Flight team, we've got Sasquatch here. There he is, rotating around on the... Let's just move the light a little bit to illuminate him a bit better. There he is, moving around on the turntable for you to take a closer look. Sasquatch is a great sculpt, although I did notice, I don't know if you clocked it as he was going around, the arm join is really evident on mine. I don't know if that's just something that's happened with my particular model, or whether that's something that's consistent across them all. But there's an arm join in the shoulder that's really prominent, really stands out, which is a little disappointing because overall it's a tremendous sculpt of a figure. Let's have a quick look at the artwork on his card. There's the kind of core character art on the back. And then we've got Sasquatch doing a flying kick there, leaping through the air. We've got Sasquatch throwing a punch, having a little growl while he's doing it. Then we've got Sasquatch, arms crossed, standing, looking somewhat disapprovingly, either at a teammate who's made a bad joke, probably Puck, or at a villain that he's intervening with. And then we got the artwork there that has inspired the sculpt with his claws out. And they've named his powers Alpha Flight, Controlled Fury, and Claws. So there you go. There is the Sasquatch sculpt. Cracking on then with the final row, we've got Puck here from Alpha Flight. There's the figure over there for you on the far edge of the screen, so you can have a look at the sculpt. Very, like a gymnastic, acrobatic kind of move going on there, which has got a lot of character and personality on the figure. But let's have a look at the card art. So there's the main card art on the back. He's got a starting hand card, and then the main hero deck. Here is following the formula. Here's Puck leaping into action. Here's Puck running into action. And here's Puck posing himself up, ready to strike a punch. So are any of them? No, none of them are. Ah, there we go. And then there is the artwork that has inspired the character sculpt. And he's got the Alpha Flight card, acrobatic fighting style, tactical intelligence, and compressed rubber physiology. Which must be the explanation for why he's so short and stunty. I don't know. There you go. But there is Puck. Okay, carrying on with the Alpha Flight crew, and we are on the penultimate figure now, second to last. We've got the Guardian figure here from the Alpha Flight team. There's the figure moving around at the far edge of the screen for you to take a look at the sculpt and absorb the quality of the figure there. But here's the artwork on the cards. So we've got Guardian, leadership, leaping into action there. There's his battlesuit armor as he's been getting knocked around in the midst of combat. His electromagnetic beams. In fact, let's have a look at the ones. There you go. That's better with a bit more of the picture. So there's the image that has inspired the figure sculpt. There you go. There's a better shot of his battlesuit armor. There's a better shot of his electromagnetic beams. And there's a better shot of him leaping through the air, getting into the action. So there you go. There's the next of the Canadians, the Alpha Flight. And it's a decent sculpt, although it's kind of... We've seen a couple of characters now in this just sort of generic fist, puff chest, fist out kind of pose. I seem to remember the Havoc was kind of like that, and there's someone else who's kind of been a bit like that, so maybe a bit of a reuse of a kind of core mould there. I don't know, but nonetheless, you know, there you go, there's Guardian. Right, well, folks, here we are then. Not only are we on the final figure of the third tray, but we're also on the final figure from the whole Marvel United X-Men Pledge promo set. And we're finishing up with Snowbird here, the final member of the Alpha Flight team. There's the figure over there rotating around for you to take a closer look at the sculpt and enjoy the quality of the sculpting on the flowing hair and the wings behind her there. Shapeshifter is Snowbird. So let's have a look at the card art. Oh, and in fact, there you go. The first card is called Animal Shapeshifting with all the different forms that she's known to take. Here is Mystical Resistance. Oh, I'll tell you what, let's go to the ones. There we are. So there's the artwork that the sculpt has been inspired by. Then there she is with all her kind of common shape-shifting shapes that she likes to adopt. There she is using the... that's probably the wolf claw there. I was about to say the owl claw, but that's clearly not an owl claw. You can tell I'm getting tired now after going through like 60-odd minifigures on camera. You know what I mean? And there she is having a little think about things. So there we go, folks. There's the Snowbird figure, and there's the Snowbird hero deck, and there is the final tray of the set. Whew. Let's go into the outro now. What an unboxing that's been. Well, friends, there we are then. As all good things must, this unboxing series has come to an end. That's the final instalment, and I hope you enjoyed me sharing my Marvel United X-Men game unpackings with you. That's the extent of the pledge that I went in on. So all four of these instalments now have covered everything that I went in on. There are people out there with Sentinels and Deadpool variants and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse and all sorts of other stuff, but that's as deep as I was willing to go. So keep an eye out on YouTube or on your popular tabletop gaming sites for coverage of the other elements there. I think a lot of value, loads packed in there. I can't wait to give it a play now. So I'll be going in and having a go of it solo, get my heads around the rules, and then try and rope the family in. My kids are a bit younger, so the 14 plus is a little concerning. I knew that going in because it's my hope that the 14 plus is just a health and safety measure because of the figures, you know. And again, I'll reiterate, don't go eating your figures, folks. Choking risk. I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you're a big old nerd like me and you love nerdy nostalgic stuff, then perhaps the variety that I offer is just what you're looking for. I worship at the Broad Church of Nerddom, and I talk about tabletop games, collectible card games, comic books, trading cards, action figures. If it's nerdy and nostalgic, there's a good chance I'm getting involved in it. It's all about games and collectibles around here. So please do subscribe to the channel if that sounds like something you're interested in. Give me a like for this video here today. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any potential future content that's Marvel United related, like some gameplay reviews and such like. But in the meantime, it's been an absolute pleasure having you joining me here. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you around these parts again sometime soon. All right, see you later, folks.